My name's Elisabeth Valerio. I was born in Harare, grew up in Harare, but also spent a lot of my time in boarding schools between Harare and Bulawayo, mostly because my parents were business people. From a young age, I saw my mother was very enterprising, and she was always coming up with ideas to create companies or different types of projects. So we moved around a little bit as a young person. But I went to school, to university overseas. I was educated in the United States. Studied first I wanted to become a medical doctor, but I ended up changing my career path. I studied public health, then I started focusing on biochemistry. So I'm a scientist and a biochemist. And a few years back, I moved back to Zimbabwe. I started living in the wilderness in Hwange because my mom had asked me to look after a piece of land that had elephants on it. So a very unusual transition from the life that I had, but I ended up moving back to Zimbabwe, and that's where I've spent my time in Hwange for the last 10 years. A conservationist there. I work as a safari operator. We've built one of the largest tourism destinations in that region. And then more recently now, I am a politician. I am the president of the United Zimbabwe Alliance, a political party which was formed on May 29, 2021. Yeah. So initially I wanted to become a medical doctor, so I didn't get that far. I ended up going to graduate school and getting a master's in public health. And then I ended up being recruited into a program that was a mentoring program that was for scientists and engineers. And I entered the biotechnology industry and started working as a biochemist for a company, one of the largest companies in the United States. So master's in public health, and then transitioned into having a career as a scientist. I actually ended up also working on some cutting edge research and have now got a patent to my name because I worked on one of the key drugs that was in the pipeline for the company that I was working on. I'm a formulation scientist. I've done crystallography, which is really a fancy way of simply saying I learned how to produce medicines in a format that's very similar to insulin, and that is a way for people to get medicines that can release in your body slowly. So I'm very interested in formulating different things. Now I'm actually spending more time in the bush formulating things like lotions from natural products in our wildlife area in Hwange, trying to figure out how to use natural products to make medicines, because a lot of even the nutritional supplements that we need for our bodies are available in plants that are all around us. So I'm spending a lot of time. I'm now an ethnobotanist, studying really ethnic approaches to solving human health, but also to using the plants that are around us. Yeah, it started when in 2020 I heard news that there was a decision made by the current president to allow coal mining in a national park, and that to me didn't add up in my mind. I lived with wildlife, and I knew and understood that the wildlife in the region of Hwange actually supports jobs. It creates opportunities for people. So it really to me was concerning, and as community members we all came together and started an initiative to try to protect the national park, and appealed to the president and said, please, you cannot allow this. Fortunately, the president did listen to our appeal and reversed the position. Cabinet actually announced that they would not be mining for coal in any national park. But then soon after that, I was being approached by people from all over the country saying, we are being told to move from where we live. Some of the places that people were being removed from were actually special sacred sites. I'm a huge historian. I love to study our culture, and I've spent a lot of time studying and understanding the shrines of some of the communities in Zimbabwe, and some of them were saying they were being told to move away from ancestral sites and burial sites that were very important to some of our families. So it became a huge issue, and eventually I realized that this was happening in more and more places, but Zimbabweans were not being put at the center of really beneficiation of these endeavors to extract resources from our country. And that really was when I realized more needed to be done. I called a meeting with individuals who I thought might be able to advise me, and we could work together to form a pressure group to try to convince government to do the right thing and protect our natural resources, keep the land for the people of Zimbabwe. But as we were sitting talking about how to protect wildlife, how to protect land, people started saying, but Elisabeth, it's more than land. It's the life we are living. It's not normal. The things that we are being exposed to in terms of the lack of health care, the lack of clean water to an ordinary citizen is not something that we can take for granted. We need to fix the problems. Children are getting married at the age of 9 years old, 10 years old. We're getting child pregnancies, rape of young people. This sort of thing needs to stop. What do we do? And so as we started having a discussion about all of these issues, the young people getting onto drugs right now because they don't have jobs, we realized these were all issues that government played a role in and should be making sure are being addressed and corrected, and it wasn't happening. And the only way that we could fix the problem, we came to realize, was by forming a new government. And that's when we created the United Zimbabwe Alliance, a brand new political party. But sitting around the table were people who had come from other political paths, and they said, let's create one party that unites the citizens of Zimbabwe and encourages people to work together to rebuild and refocus our country, to take back Zimbabwe for Zimbabweans. And so that's how I came to be in politics. I was elected the president of the party. It's been an exciting journey. We've spent time traveling across the country, meeting the people. It's been one of the most amazing experiences of my life because I thought I knew Zimbabwe. I'm Zimbabwean, but ultimately until you spend time traveling to every province, every constituency, speaking to people, you don't get a sense of what's really happening on the ground. So I now feel like I understand a lot of what the outlook of the citizens of Zimbabwe is. We've spent time trying to understand what Zimbabweans want from their government, and we've built and shaped a manifesto, a party manifesto that is completely centered around citizens' engagement. We asked the citizens and we created a document that really lays out the roadmap for where we need to go as a country. It's been great, but it's been challenging as well. Politics is not an easy path to pursue. It's not an easy place for people to find themselves. And as we try to convince people to get involved, often people are afraid. There are challenges in politics. Some people are intimidated. They're scared. Are they going to be safe? So we are trying to encourage, especially women, to get involved. I am